We are the restaurant brokers, and we sell restaurants.
We started the nation's largest restaurant brokerage firm over a decade ago.
Atlanta, Georgia was our starting point, but our brand is spreading nationwide. We define restaurant brokerage and help buyers just like these.
Our dream, our goal, open up a restaurant, loving life, serving people breakfast and lunch, and then enjoying the rest of the day with them and ourselves.
Buying an existing restaurant, leasing a closed restaurant space, or purchasing a restaurant franchise. We help buyers satisfy their appetite for acquisition.
I'm part of a husband and wife team with this fella.
Working with my wife has been a lot of fun. The ultimate goal for everybody here is to make this work. And because we have different strengths, we bring different angles to the deal.
The process begins with our powerhouse website, WeSellRestaurants.com, where buyers sign online confidentiality agreements and browse restaurants for sale.
Then we send buyers undercover to check out a restaurant and decide if it's the right one for them.
Buyers get our proprietary business analysis tool with all the financial details on the business for sale.
After studying the restaurant inside and out, it's back to our office.
We're deal makers. We write contracts and negotiate terms for buyers and sellers. That's why we sell more restaurants than any other firm in the nation. We are the restaurant brokers. Our name says it all. You're back on the air with Eric and Robin Gagnon, the restaurant brokers. We are talking with funding experts from Fran Data, United Community Bank, and ApplePie Capital as we focus on the financial side of the restaurant industry and satisfy your appetite for acquisition, feed the need for restaurant reality, and serve up a recipe for business success. So we left this last discussion in a conversation about borrowers. And I think, Eric, you wanted to follow up on that, right?
Yes, I mean, I think one of the questions I have, maybe Ron, you could take that. It's like, a lot of people go out, as the franchisors get more and more mature, they'll sell like multi-unit deals, development deals, basically 1, 2, 3 stores typically. Like, okay, so I'm buying 3 stores, and I have nothing open yet. I'm starting up. I've got my territory. I'm ready to go, but I need some funds. We get a lot of calls like this, at our office. What do I do next? Where do they go from there financing? Do you have any advice for that?
Yeah, well, first of all, one of the rules with SBA financing is that they attach all available collateral on loans over $350,000. So you've got to really plan and talk to your lender about your plan. I want to open 3 units, and you've got to really sell the lender on why that's a good idea for them to even talk to you about 3 units when you haven't opened any yet. 3 years ago, we couldn't have this discussion. They'd only do it one at a time. But right now, the banks are understanding multi-unit development agreements, provided the borrower has the right capital reserves and that there is enough equity, real cash equity, to put skin in the game in each of the 3 units. I've even seen it in SBA deals where we were able to get a franchisee in a food chain financing for 3 units up front because they understood that it was a brand that worked better in multi-unit and it was a great borrower. But you have to plan. You can't just talk about unit 1.
Okay, so
work that way.
I think that's great advice. And Denise, I want to flip over to you and ask a little bit about online platforms. So how are online platforms really innovating in terms of loan products and programs for franchises?
Absolutely. We just closed and funded a first unit that is going to 15 units over the next 5 years on Friday of last week, and it was a $465,000 loan, and that person, had franchised in the past, but not with this particular brand, so they had experience, and it was a very effective planning process. Just like Ron said, we sat down with them, we went over their future plans, how they were going to deploy their equity in each of the units, how they were going to leverage across units, and had a full plan for their whole 15 units. And they actually had other financing options, but they felt they could get their money on the day they needed their money in planning with us, and that they had a horizon that would allow them to own more than 1 unit in the future. So I completely agree with the planning up front, and the online really facilitates we talked about documents as an example. So this is going to be where a person can see online where they stand in the process. there's not going to be any paper. There's always, a statusing and an ability to see where you are in the process. So online has the advantage that everything is in control of that borrower. They can see where they are. They can respond quickly or not. And the speed then is served back to them just in kind as they get their paperwork and material done. So it has a speed advantage and an efficiency.
Good. Frank, I got a question for you. I bank at, let's say, one of the big banks, and this is where I'm going to go for my restaurant line. We're talking about food service here, but do you believe, or is there a truth to that certain banks have appetite for certain kind of brands or certain kind of franchise, or like, hey, I'd rather do massage envy type scenario. I'm not really interested in the restaurant brand. Or do you need to shop for your bank where there will be a match where they are interested in the food business, or just every bank will do everything nowadays?
It's getting a little more aggressive, so you'll see more banks doing more concepts, but every bank has their own experience in a certain industry segment. So you'll find some banks that have sworn off restaurant concepts, and you'll have others who are fine with it. It really comes down to, in most cases, the strength of the franchise brand first, kind of industry segments. Some of the smaller banks might have industry concentration issues, portfolio issues. So, it's definitely, you want to work with a bank who understands the franchise lending marketplace, and let them know what concept you're working on, who you're working with, because right early on, if they've had bad experience with a concept or with an industry itself, you want to find that out. And you want to deal with the right people at the bank. You don't want to spend 2 or 3 weeks working your way through the branch network to finally get to someone in the bank that tells you we're not interested.
Oh, and I can tell you,
something you do up front.
Yeah, as brokers, we often will have somebody go, oh, well, I just went down and talked to fill in the blank big bank guy, and they're going to do this loan for me. And I just say, well, you know what, let's go down a parallel path, and let me give you my resources, because we've seen it all too frequently that somebody's just making sure they get a lead through the pipeline that's never going to get to the closing table.
Right.
So, Ron, one thing we said in the conversation earlier, we talked about the FDD, or the Franchise Disclosure Document. Talk just for a moment for our listeners about how critical that is, that, it really align not only with, what the Federal Trade Commission requires, but that it align with the goals of the franchise financially, because that's going to be really carefully studied, correct?
It is, and I've been saying for years that, to franchisors, that your FDD is not your friend with lenders. The FDD is a document designed to protect the franchisor and written by attorneys relating to the FTC rules. It's not designed to show a lender whether it's a good credit risk or not to lend to that brand. And that's why FranData created the BCR, and why hundreds of brands have adopted it as part of their annual reporting. We went back to the emerging franchisors. I just looked at an FDD this morning for a franchisor that had 2 units, and the franchisor financials showed a balance sheet with $51,000 in cash and no income statement because it was a startup.
Oh, hey, listen, Ron, I want to hear the rest of that story, but I think we're going to run short on time. We just have had so much information to pack into this very, very quick segment. This is Eric and Robin Gagnon, the restaurant brokers. We are franchising nationwide. Our concept, we have offices in Florida, Colorado, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Georgia. To learn more about our brand, visit WeSellRestaurants.com. That's WeSell restaurants with an S.com. We'll be right back after this very brief timeout.